Just a quick reminder guys, these narrations are best enjoyed with headphones on. Hey everyone, welcome to the Disabled Gaming Reviews Awards, commonly known as the Bloggies 2020. Now 2020 has been an extremely tough year, with the coronavirus pandemic hitting various nations around the world. So both the film and gaming industries has been hit severely hard. But in the gaming industry, the new generation of consoles, that's the PS5 and Xbox Series X, has been released. So now I think it's time for me to start thinking back over the games and what's been happening over the past hardware generation. So the blog is 2020. This time I'm going to be doing it through the entire hardware generation. So please enjoy. Right, to kick things off, we have the Fulgur Award, the high-scoring modern game of this generation. The nominations for the Fulgur Award are as follows: Killer Instinct, Rare, Iron Galaxy, and Xbox Game Studios. This is one of MF Snake's picks. This game is the reboot of one of the beloved classics from the SNES era. With Microsoft's acquisition of UK-based developer Rare in 2002, the reboot of Killer Instinct seems inevitable. This game is also Microsoft's answer to Street Fighter V. The game's combo assist mechanic evens out the playing field for a player with mobility impairments. So, if Snake and I were to throw down, none of us would have the advantage due to my mobility impairment. With the inclusion of cross-platform play between PC and Xbox systems, players can enjoy the game regardless of which platform they are playing on. The diverse roster of characters, including cameos from other Xbox-owned franchises, for example, General Rom from Gears of War, Rash from Battletoads, my main by the way, to the Arbiter from the Halo series. In its current state, the game is probably one of my favourite fighting games. Rocket League, Psyonix, and Panic Button games. This game, in particular, is an indie gem which has risen to notoriety in this generation of hardware. This, along with other popular games like Fortnite, introduced cross-platform play across all systems. This game is currently taking the esports scene by storm. The game has already recently signed a partnership with the X Games. The developer's partnership with Epic Games could mean a new direction for the franchise. In terms of accessibility, it seems as though the developers weren't screwing around. The controls could be fully customizable both on PC and console, with numerous colorblind modes to boot. Forza Horizon 4, Turn 10 Studios, Playground Games, and Xbox Game Studios. Now, what can I say about Microsoft's Forza series is what that has not been already said. The Horizon series is the perfect way to play a driving game. The open world sandbox allows endless exploration of the developer's recreation of the United Kingdom. This game more or less has it all. Cross-platform play between PC and Xbox users, Xbox Series X enhancements, which is by the way looking amazing, a persistent online world with a vast plethora of cars to choose from, ranging from classic cars, for example the Lotus Esprit, which is featured in the 007 film The Spy Who Loved Me, to modern day supercars like the Aston Martin Vulcan and the McLaren Senna. This game has a variety of activities and races to do with either your friends online or other AI players to play through. In short, this game is pretty damn long. The game's season mechanic adds even more realism to the game itself. For example, one week you are driving around the country roads and the beauty of summer. In the next few weeks, you might be drifting around the icy roads of winter. You have to tune your car and to adapt to the changing seasons. And for the final nomination of the Fulgur Award is Streets of Rage 4, Sega Enterprises, Dotemu, Little Cube and God Crush Games. the sequel to the 25-year-old franchise we never saw coming. This game has been described as God tier. When I am playing this game, I completely agree with that statement. It still retains the classic charm of the previous entries of the franchise, originally released on the Sega Mega Drive, with the classic brawler mechanics to boot, while adding features which keeps this game relevant in today's market. For example, online play. This game's soundtrack does not disappoint. Some of the tracks was composed by the original composer, who's developed quite a name for himself in the industry as a whole, the legendary Yuzo Koshiro. This game has cross-play with Xbox and PC user, so you'll be able to enjoy this game with your friends regardless of which device you decide to play on. In my honest opinion, this game reboots the legendary franchise in the best possible way. And the winner is Forza Horizon 4. So next on the list we've got the Satoru Iwata Memorial Award. On my business card, I am a corporate president. In my mind, I'm a game developer. But in my heart, I am a gamer. Satoru Iwata, rest in peace. This award is named after the president of Nintendo, who probably single-handedly revived the video game industry from the crash of the 1980s. Normally we count the high-scoring, most accessible game, retro game, that PS2 era and back. However, this year, as a whole generational special, we had to jig things a bit. This year, this award is for the best HD remaster, HD collection, or definitive edition for the ultimate nostalgia trip that truly lives to the Iwata name. The nominations for the Satoru Iwata Memorial Award are as follows: Halo the Master Chief Collection, 343 Industries, Ruffian Games, Splash Damage, and Microsoft Game Studios. As I've said in my previous review of Halo 4, the Master Chief Collection has been nothing short of a tale of redemption from rags to riches. Upon its release, the game was extremely buggy, plagued with multiplayer disconnects, games and features missing from the collections, and various other gripes. In its current state, this is exactly how the collection should have launched. Not only have they created a collection of all 6 games, including all DLC maps, campaigns, and in Reaches and ODST's case, firefight modes, but they also brought PC players back into the Halo franchise by porting each and every game of the collection to PC. I've been following 343 Industries' process of porting each game from Xbox to PC, reviewing them as and when they release. To be brutally honest with you, I think 343 made an excellent call. Although it took 343 Industry the majority of that generation's life cycle to redeem itself, by Jove, it was certainly worth the wait. With the inclusion of crossplay between PC and Xbox successfully implemented and balanced, the graphical enhancements and optimizations of the Xbox Series S and X being launched, with the final piece of the puzzle being launched for PC, the entire Halo experience has been made all the sweeter. Again, as I said in my review of Halo 4, if you haven't played the Halo games yet, this game is currently available and downloadable for free as part of your Xbox Game Pass subscription. You owe it to yourself to do this. Once again, guys, this statement does not in any way, shape, or form include Halo 5, Final Fantasy VII, 8 and 9, Square Enix, and Dotemu. These games, remastered for the Xbox One, single-handedly revolutionized the JRPG subgenre thanks to Streets of Rage 4 developers Dotemu. We can revisit the classics from the PS1 era and current-gen systems. As I've said in the review of this game, playing through Final Fantasy VII for the first time is somewhat of a rite of passage. The next 2 games build on the mechanics of 7, but it doesn't have the charm. Although porting the game itself to Xbox One was rather shoddy, these games were launching without widescreen support. so the letter style of visuals can be a bit of a pain. Throughout 2020, these games were available on Xbox Game Pass, so you had the chance to at least try each and every one of these games as part of your subscription. If you missed those chances, slap yourself in the wrist with a ruler. Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition, Ensemble Studios, Forgotten Empires, Tantalus Media, and Microsoft Game Studios. Along with StarCraft, Microsoft's Age of Empires series has been the lifeblood of the RTS subgenre. This particular game faded to obscurity when the game had ran into compatibility issues with Windows Vista, but however back in 2013, the game received the HD remaster treatment, with various fixes for modern operating systems and Steam Workshop support, to allow players to create mods of their own, then uploading to the workshop itself so that users can download, use and enjoy it. This, along with online multiplayer, brought this game back from the dead. Last year, this game received the remaster treatment again, but this time the game achieved what is deemed as impossible. They improved a timeless classic from the 90s, giving the game a coat of 4K paint. For a very small cost, you'll be getting a load of content. 20 years in fact. This package includes the base game, that's the Age of King, the game's first expansion, that's the Conquerors, the game's third expansion, originally released as an add-on for the HD edition, the Forgotten Empire, and the HD edition's 2 expansions released later on in the life cycle. These are the African Kingdoms and the Rise of the Rajas. The release of the Definitive Edition had an additional expansion included, The Last Khans. As you can tell, this game is marketed as a Definitive Edition. It seems as though they weren't joking when they branded this game. If you're relatively new to the RTS genre looking for a game to start with, this game is highly recommended. Crash Bandicoot N. Sane Trilogy, Toys for Bob, Vicarious Visions, Iron Galaxy, and Activision. This is another one of Snake's picks. The Crash Bandicoot series has been dominant for decades. The last game was released in 2010, that was Crash Nitro Kart 2. Activision and developer Vicarious Visions came completely out of nowhere like an RKO and announced the entire trilogy of Crash Bandicoot games was going to be remastered. The trilogy of games, priding themselves on being frustratingly hard, controller braking levels from the original Crash Bandicoot to Warped. The game also includes 2 additional levels exclusive to the N. Sane Trilogy. The controversial Stormy Ascent. By the way guys, the level was so hard I had to get scrapped from the game for a while, and present tense. In short, this game single-handedly saved one of the most characteristic franchises from the 90s from total obscurity. The 4th entry of the series was released, aptly dubbed It's About Time. So if you are the type of player who takes the word difficulty and then uses it as toilet paper, needs effects of good old-fashioned nostalgia from their childhood, this game is highly recommended. And the final nomination for the Satoru Iwata Memorial Award is Sonic Mania, Christine Whitehead, Headcanon, Pagoda West Games, and Sega of America. The highest rated Sonic game in 15 years. Sonic Mania is the celebration of both old and new. This game is exactly how a Sonic game should feel like and play like. For example, my favorite character in video games. Tails has been somewhat excluded in the past few decades. For example, the last time Tails was a fully playable character was Sonic Adventure 2. Most games then, he only appeared in cutscenes. Owing to the fact that he is in the top 3 most popular Sonic characters, I think he deserved to be playable in future games. This game, on the other hand, has Tails added to the roster as a fully playable character. The Encore DLC adds characters that have been completely missing since the Saturn era, Ray the Flying Squirrel and Mighty the Armadillo. The game features levels from various games from the classic 2D entries of the series, for example Stardust Speedway Zone from Sonic CD. Although the game's plot is linked to the mediocre Sonic Forces, this and the winner of the Satoru Iwata Memorial Award is Halo the Master Chief Collection. Next up, we've got the Phil Spencer Award, a one-off new category named after the current head of Xbox. When this generation began, the majority of the gaming community frowned upon, even disregarded the notion of backwards compatibility, the ability to play games you paid for, therefore legally own, from the previous generation on modern hardware. When the head of Xbox took to the stage during a Microsoft press conference back in 2020, he said the following statement: "We weren't sure it was possible. Today, I'm pleased to announce Xbox One backward compatibility." This opened the floodgates for 360 games, later original Xbox game playable on your Xbox One. All of a sudden, we as video games started to believe in the notion that newly released games consoles should be able to play games for the previous generations of that particular system. As you can probably tell, this award is for the best game that was released from backwards compatibility on Xbox One or previous generation of games ported to PC. The nominations for the Phil Spencer Award are as follows: Star Wars Battlefront 2, Pandemic Studios, Lucasfilm, LucasArts and Disney. The Star Wars Battlefront games are one of the best series of Star Wars games available, although in recent years EA has been abusing the franchise with lucrative microtransactions and progression tied to loot boxes, which has attracted attention from numerous governments of the world and the mass media. However, fear not my old friends, you can dig out your old copy of the original Star Wars Battlefront 2, made by Pandemic Studios for the original Xbox, which is probably sitting on your shelf gathering dust. Just pop the disc in your Xbox and enjoy probably the best Star Wars game on the market. And all thanks to GOG for the PC users and Xbox backwards compatibility. This is exactly what a Star Wars game should look like and play like. All out war on a truly galactic scale. What sets aside from EA's failed reboot to the franchise is Galactic Conquest Mode. As the name suggests, you take control of one of the factions that were active in the first 6 films of the saga and conquer the galaxy planet by planet. This game also features a diverse roster of both heroes and villains to players, from General Grievous to Darth Vader to Han Solo to the legendary Luke Skywalker. In terms of the multiplayer, you can't play online on the backwards compatible Xbox version due to the Xbox Live server being shut down. However, you can still play with other players through the system link, i.e. LAN play. The PC version, on the other hand, the servers are still active thanks to GOG. Seriously, go buy it. And as for the next nomination for the Phil Spencer Award is... Hold up a second guys, we've got to take this call.
Nico, it's Roman. Let's go bowling.
Grand Theft Auto 4, Rockstar North, Rockstar Toronto and Rockstar New England. The Grand Theft Auto series has been the juggernaut of the gaming industry as a whole.
Even though the controversial Grand Theft Auto 5, which has been ported to 3 generations of systems, in my opinion, needlessly. And don't even get me started on how badly sharkcards and oppressors are breaking GTA Online.
If you would like to revisit an all-time classic for the Xbox 360 era,
and go bowling with women,
it is backwards compatible on Xbox. Also, this game, along with the 2 expansions, that's The Lost and Damned and The Blood of Gay Tony, it's also available on Steam, with the controversial Games for Windows Live DRM removed. But guys, more on that in a minute. The base game story is extremely interesting and exciting, as it shows you an accurate portrayal of an Eastern European immigrant entering the country illegally for a fresh start and to pursue the American dream, and an epic tale of betrayal, exploitation, and bullying. In terms of the multiplayer elements, the Xbox servers are still up so you can enjoy exploring Liberty City, a portrayal of New York City entirely at your own pace, with friends on Xbox Live. The PC version, on the other hand, has the multiplayer elements of the game cut out completely. This was due to Microsoft's controversial Games for Windows Live service, which was hated by the majority of the players who used Windows Vista. Metal Gear Solid HD Collection, Blueprint Games and Kojima Productions. Yes guys, as you can tell, this is one of Snake's choices. The Metal Gear Solid series has been the grandfather of the stealth game subgenre. During the 360 era, Konami has been porting certain bestsellers from its PS2 catalogue to Xbox 360. One of these collections, Silent Hill, could have been much better. But the Metal Gear collection was the polar opposite. This collection includes the Xbox 360 port of Metal Gear Peace Walker. With this collection you can revisit two of the most timeless classics from the PS2 library, Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty and Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, all of which in glorious HD. Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty is split into two chapters. The tanker section, where our protagonist Solid Snake has to infiltrate a tanker currently in the Hudson River to expose the existence of a new Metal Gear, which leads on to the plant section, which newcomer Raiden has to infiltrate a barrier preventing an oil slick off the Manhattan coast, the Big Shell, to neutralize a terrorist group planning to destroy the facility, rescue the president, and prevent a massive environmental disaster. Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater puts you in the shoes of Naked Snake, who has to infiltrate the USSR to rescue a defecting Soviet weapons scientist to prove the USA's innocence of a nuclear attack. This collection is exactly what Phil Spencer's version of backwards compatibility on Xbox One was about. Revisiting a classic game from your childhood by making these games playable on modern day systems. The game's stealth mechanics is very good and hopefully you won't have to use them. The shooting mechanics is also very easy to use. If you're a PS2 diehard looking for nostalgia when playing your beloved system, this game is highly recommended. And our final nomination for the Phil Spencer Award is Ultra Street Fighter 4 by Capcom. Like it or not, the Street Fighter series is the lifeblood of the fighting games genre. This brought fighting games in general back into focus when it released for the Xbox 360 back in 2008. This game ended an 11-year hiatus of the series. This game is debatably the best entry of the series as a whole, with a host of returning characters like Chun-Li, Ryu, and Ken Masters, mixing with new characters like Rufus, El Fuerte, and Gouken, not to be confused with Akuma or Goki, which was Ken and Ryu's master. Street Fighter 4 introduced numerous mechanics such as focus attacks and EX special moves. Although that Street Fighter 5 is currently released for the PlayStation 4 and PC, snubbing the Xbox, Street Fighter 4 still holds up even to this day. And the winner for the Phil Spencer Award is Grand Theft Auto 4. Now, with the three big awards out of the way, it is time for the DGR equivalent of the Magaluf Walk of Shame. Seriously guys, I would rather you guys have googled this rather than me explaining it to you. Let's start off with the award named after the negative trophy for any country's rugby team who went to the Six Nations without winning a single match. The Wooden Spoon Award. This represents the worst and least accessible game of this hard generation. So the nominations for the Wooden Spoon Award are as follows. Star Wars Battlefront, the EA reboot. Gee guys, talk about the from ranks to riches. This particular game is the classic cut-and-dry case of a big mega corporation of the gaming industry butchering a very well-known and beloved franchise. For decades, we've been screaming out for a full-blown sequel to Pandemic Studios' mega hit Star Wars Battlefront, when Electronic Arts acquired the rights for Star Wars following the collapse of Star Wars games developer LucasArts. We sensed a disturbance in the force. First of all, it was elsewhere, elusive. But when the game launched back in 2015, it was like a car crash in slow motion. First off, players who purchased the Ultimate Editions gained access to Han Solo's blaster. This was more powerful than any other weapon in the game, so this is clearly paid to win. By the way guys, we'll get to that later. Also, the number of features that was missing from the game, like single player campaigns and space battles. I mean, what is the point of playing a Star Wars game without any space battles anyway? And most importantly, in my opinion, a galactic conquest mode. But I was tempted to put this game in the Yet to Brute Awards category, and here's why. There's one feature in quite a lot of games which are deal breakers with mobility for players with mobility impairment. Can you guess what that is? A legacy stick layout. To all of you who aren't familiar with what that is, a legacy stick layout was originally introduced by the N64 classic GoldenEye. The layout itself allows the player to move and turn with a single stick. This allows a mobility impaired player to play the game. Right, so let's talk a bit more about this. Legacy stick layout was available at launch, but when using this vital tool for a mobility impaired player, it took a player around 30 seconds for her or him to complete a 180-degree turn. This puts mobility impaired player at a marked disadvantage in a highly competitive environment settings, in this case a first-person shooter game. What really rubbed salt to an open wound was the fact that it took them just under 1 month, that's 3 weeks, to fix the problem. This was also released at the same time as the Battle of Jakku DLC. I don't think you need an Among Us player to smell the sus there. Halo 5, 343 Industries and Microsoft Studios. 343, how could you screw up this badly? As you can probably tell by my alias on both Blogger and YouTube, you know that I'm a big follower of the Halo series. If you've played a Halo game from Bungie, you should know exactly how a decent Halo game looks like, plays like, and feels like. Unfortunately, Halo 5 has little to none of these factors. First off, let's talk about the story. The advertising campaign of this game leading up to launch day was, without a shadow of a doubt, the biggest farce in the gaming industry. The majority of the events shown in the adverts leading up to launch did not happen. The story centered around Spartan Locke was a big slap in the face to the Halo community. Next up, multiplayer. Multiplayer in a Halo game is like a wedding without a DJ. You can't have one without the other. Halo 5's multiplayer was not even close to what a multiplayer in a Halo game should be. The new mechanics, for example Spartan Slam, feels unnecessary. The game's Warzone mode was its saving grace. However, the power weapons and vehicles which were available to players during a Warzone match are tied to loot boxes. If you have been following this channel and blog, you should know my stance towards this kind of mechanic. Seriously, this game almost killed the Halo franchise as a whole. Hunt down the Freeman, Royal Rudius Entertainment. This game is a classic example on how not to make a Half-Life game. This game was extremely buggy and still is. You can't progress through certain levels unless you enable the no-clip command in the console, which is technically classed as cheating. There's a lot of recycled assets in the game from the Crowbar Collective, Black Mesa, and the voice actors can't even pronounce the research facility that kicked off the event of this series. And the story is pretty laughable. This game is not nicknamed Hunted Down the Refund and the 7-hour chore for nothing. Enough said. Sonic Forces, Sonic Team, Hardlight, and Sega Enterprises. Sonic Mania, the highest rated Sonic game in 15 years, had a lot to live up to. Unfortunately, this is not what a Sonic game should feel like and play like. The game itself highlights some of the worst aspects of the Sonic fandom. Instead of playing our Speedy Blue protagonist, you create your own character. The story is pretty much like from a fanfiction. Once again, Tails was put on the back burner and unplayable. The mechanics of this game feels unnecessary. In a standard Sonic game, you are given a certain amount of lives. When those lives hit zero, game over. However, in this game, the character can die around 25 times and still be able to complete the level. Playing this game feels more repetitive than any other Sonic game I played. No Sega, just no. And the winner for the Wooden Spoon Award is... Sonic Forces! And last but certainly not least, we have the Yetsubruti Award. So here we are with the last category of the year-end special. This particular award category names and shames the biggest backstabbers of the gaming industry. So grab yourself a nice comfy seat, grab the popcorn as you go through these backstabbers of this gaming generation. Konami Metal Gear Solid Phantom Pain, made by Behedi. Oh wait, Pachinko Edition. Before this drama started, Japanese developer Konami was a household name in the gaming industry. They had a lot of titles and franchises in their portfolio. Metal Gear Solid was one of those franchises. But during the development of Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain, something very wrong happened within the company. The very few people know exactly what was going on, but Kojima's name was removed from promotional material and even the box art of The Phantom Pain. The corporate politics was also made even clearer when Kojima was blocked from attending the Game Awards to receive an award that The Phantom Pain had won. After the whole debacle, Konami decided to kill off a playable teaser of an unannounced Silent Hill reboot co-developed with Kojima. After the split, the playable teaser was removed from every single storefront that the game was listed on. The final knife in Kojima's back was when the company started to develop a new game in the series. The game is called Metal Gear Survived. It flopped spectacularly. Now, the franchises in Konami's portfolio are now only pachinko machines, with the exemption of Pro Evolution, Electronic Arts, Star Wars Battlefront 2, Attack of the Loot Boxes, Ultimate Team Edition. Loot boxes are the absolute cancer of the video game industry as a whole. This mechanic is basically simulated gambling. You pay X amount of money for X amount of loot boxes. The contents of these boxes are completely randomized. As I have said, this is anyway simulated gambling. EA officially crossed the line when they was being involved with a franchise from a production company focused on family-friendly films, Disney. When the second entry of EA rebooted Star Wars Battlefront franchise, character progression was tied to randomized loot boxes. Apparently it took 40 hours of grinding in the game to unlock Darth Vader. You know just as well as I do, Darth Vader is one of the biggest, most recognizable characters in the Star Wars franchise. Therefore, you were forced into buying into randomized loot boxes. What really grinds my gears about the whole issue was that EA is basically introducing simulated gambling in video games to children. This puts them at risk of getting a gambling addiction from a very early age. The controversial practice is not only in Star Wars Battlefront, it's in EA's series of sports games. FIFA has these practically shoved in your face. The only way to gain decent players in Ultimate Team is to buy packs, which is basically the exact same thing that is found in Battlefront 2, and has been doing this for years. And to think, I actually thought Activision could sink lower than that. Epic Games, rest in peace, Unreal Tournament and Gears, making room for Fortnite. Right, before I start this, for the record, I think Fortnite is not the worst game in existence. There are worse games, for example the 10 with no name, and they had the controversial Sonic 06. But it is entirely another thing when gaming's biggest franchise has been killed off suddenly to make room for this game. As you've been following my blood, you will know that out of all the games that is on the market, Unreal Tournament is the game that I hold the dearest. I remember playing this game before my accident, during my stay in hospital, even to this day. In 2017, Epic Games announced that a new entry of the series after years of hiatus was in development in collaboration with the community. As you could probably tell, I was hyped. I am a pre-alpha tester of this game, and I could tell you something right now, it is amazing. But along came a spider who sat down beside her. That spider was of course Fortnite. Due to the high profitability of the game, Epic decided to can develop completely in 2018. Well done Epic, killing off a series of games that you are famous for to be replaced with that. In its current state, this game feels far from finished. Sega Enterprises Sonic Mania, 2 weeks delayed for PC users for the implementation of Denuvo. As I have said earlier in this post or video if you're watching on YouTube, Sonic Mania is the highest rated Sonic game in 15 years. It was slated for release on all platforms including PC on the 15th of August 2017. It was every Sonic player's dream come true. But along came a spider who sat down beside her. In this case, the spider is the game's controversial publisher Sega. The company announced during a gameplay livestream, days before the scheduled release date, the PC port of the game was delayed for 2 weeks. Every PC gamer, including myself, smells a rat. That rat was Denuvo. To all of you who are unfamiliar with what Denuvo is a highly restrictive piece of anti-tamper software. Basically DRM, or Digital Rights Management. This is a bad thing because the implementation of this increases the file size of the game you're protecting dramatically. Also, the game that you paid money for therefore should legally own requires online verification in order to check that the game itself has been modified in any way. Therefore, no internet connection, you can play the game that you paid for. Due to the constant encryption and decryption of data, game that used Denuvo is reported to be responsible for solid state drives or SSD failing. To put the final knife in our backs, it is a legal requirement for game developers to specify whether or not additional software or DRM is contained in the game that you are selling. If so, you have to specify which one. Upon Mania's launch, Sega failed to adhere to this legal requirement. So, if you have bought Mania on its delayed date of launch, by the way the console versions of Mania released on schedule, you are unknowingly downloading a piece of software that would remain in your hard drive after the game is uninstalled. This is commonly known as Widow software. At the time of posting, Sega officially announced that they have removed Denuvo from Mania, decreasing its file size from 1.5 GB to only 714 MB in a patch. And the winner of the Et tu Brute award and the biggest backstabbing of this hardware generation is EA's greedy money-grabbing policy of randomized loot boxes and microtransactions. So, this concludes the generational special of the Bloggies. See you guys in the next review. Spartan Commander 1998. Roll out, Spartan Company.